right, welcome to the Real Estate Huddle podcast once again for episode 29. And today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of buying and renting, and buying versus renting, and what you should consider. There's a lot of people that are wondering this right now that it looks on paper that renting is actually more affordable than buying in several states in the U.S. right now, just based on where interest rates are. And so we're going to kind of debunk some myths today and talk through, what someone should be thinking as far as that goes. And make sure we're evaluating the entire picture, because sometimes you're just seeing the payment, right? That's it. So we want to talk about a couple other things that you may want to consider if you're looking into buying versus renting. So I'll turn it over to you guys first. What do you guys think?
Buy.
Why?
I think a lot of people get intimidated because you do have to save up money, and I think that, or you do have to be committed to the location, and there's all this, commitment, which isn't necessarily 100% true. I think that that's kind of a myth in itself, because you can always sell, you can rent out your property. There's a lot of different things that you can do.
I also think that people think it's easier to just rent, go find an apartment, sign a lease, move in, and be done with it, where home buying, especially for someone who has never done it before, can seem a little bit more intimidating. And it is sometimes a challenge for first-time home buyers, but it's not something that people should steer away from. And I also think that buying gives you the option to eventually be able to be a landlord and rent your property out to someone else and make additional income. So for me, it's a long-term plan, long-term play of buying now and making that effort to save money for a down payment. Suck it up when it comes to having to go see 15 homes, maybe get your heart broken on your first try, because really it's a long-term play. And
so you're saying the path of least resistance is the path that most people go on. Okay, and I agree with that. So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a little bit though. But I just read this article on Times Magazine that it looks like $120,000 better for me to rent for the next 15 years than buy, according to them. Like, what am I not seeing? What am I missing here? What do you guys think?
I didn't read that
article. So it just came out actually, like a month or two ago. And it's interesting that they're putting all this information out there, right? And I think, like, you nailed it as far as the pros to renting goes. It's easy to rent, right? And you can go and do it, and the overall payment might be lower in a lot of cases right now because of interest rates. And I think what's missing from the equation then is, like, we're not CPAs. You should call one to get the best information, but like, generally, if you Google this, right, you'll learn that there's some tax advantages to buying real estate that actually end up being pretty influential, right, in people's decisions. There's also principal, like, that you pay yourself, right? Every month you're paying yourself a certain amount of your mortgage payment, and it gets sweeter and sweeter every month during your mortgage schedule, right? The amortization schedule is what we call that. And so there's that too, which makes it, maybe you've heard of, like, buying a home as like a forced savings plan. That's why, because you're paying yourself every month a forced savings, and you're increasing the equity, or the portion that you own of your home is increasing every single month.
But I thought you said the article was leaning more towards the positives of renting right now versus buying. What were some of those?
Yep. So it's anticipating the cost of mortgages, like, as far as home values going up, and it's also anticipating, and it's basically just looking at the monthlies. Like, if you rented, this is what your monthly would be, and over 15 years, this is what deficit you would have in your payment only, right? It's not considering what you're paying yourself back, the tax advantages, and the biggest one, in my opinion, appreciation, which is huge, right? Like, homes appreciate, and they should. They're appreciating assets. And so on average, a U.S. home appreciates 5% per year. And the median home price nowadays is like just over $300,000 in the country. And so that's $15,000 a year. But in Colorado, you can't even buy a condo in many cases for $300,000, right? Like, our market's a lot higher than that. And so, you see the average close price in our market overall was $727,000 this last month. Single family average close price was $816,000, and attached was $474,000. And so with those prices, you think 5% on average growth, which Colorado's average tends to be 7% over time. that's a really strong number on a average home of $727,000. That's about $40,000 a year that your home is growing without you doing anything. That's in some cases that's a salary for some people, right? With just passive income, not doing anything. So for me, that's a huge factor in considering. But devil's advocate coming out again, you have to survive the payment, right? Mm-hmm. How on earth do you survive the payment when your mortgage payment's $4,000 buying an average home in Denver right now? That's the tricky part. So.
Yeah. So I'm thinking rent goes up every year, typically, right?
Most of the time.
Yeah. So it's going to keep going up, and that's just you're paying somebody else to live. Mm-hmm. But if you can just buy your first home, that's all you need. And there's lots of incentives for first home buyers that they can get in there with the loans and the down payments and stuff like that. But then you're investing in your own future. So you're making money going forward. Yeah. In my opinion, if you can just get that first home, build equity, then you've already got it. But in other words, if you rent, you're not saving any money, and it's going to continue to go up, but your mortgage is always going to stay the same.
And Landon, to answer your question about surviving the initial monthly payment, I think there's certain ways around it, and I think everyone's situation is a little bit different. Let's say you're a single person who wants to, just get into the market. You can find a roommate if you get a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom to kind of help pay your mortgage. It kind of depends where you are in your life and if you want to do something like that. I know a couple people in their 20s or early 30s that have done that. And then, then you have couples who go into it together, having two incomes pay for it. But then I also think you lean into your resources, like your lenders and who you partner with, because there are a lot of lenders out there doing free refinancing, and everyone's a little bit different. I've seen some lenders not offer it at all, but I've seen others offer it with about a year wait time before you can refinance, and I've seen others that you just have to make 3 payments, and as long as you can do those 3 payments, if rates drop, you can refinance, and that would help survive that payment a little bit.
Yeah, I heard you say earlier, like, suck it up for a little while, right? Like, if you can make it and budget, like, really, like, budget like you've never budgeted before.
You're going to have to make sacrifices.
To earn the right, to be a homeowner, because values, from what we can see, like, our inventory has climbed, but our year over year, we've still gone up 5.5% this last year in value, right? As far as our homes go, even though we have more inventory, the demand is still there. And actually in the entire market, that's single family, the entire market's gone up 6.89% during crappy interest rates, right? Like, interest rates almost up in the 8s last fall, and values have still gone up almost 7% in our market. Like, that tells you something about the amount of demand that's pushing upward for people to get into homes.
It also tells you that if you're waiting for the rates and trying to time things with the rates, you're making the wrong decision, the wrong choice. Because prices are going up even with the rates, and you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot, because as soon as they drop, prices will increase even more.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to pick the best of 2 evils, because you're going to pay a higher price because people are going to be bidding when interest rates go down, or if interest rates are high, maybe you could put in an offer a little less. Or at asking and get it. And that would be worth it.
Yeah, and that's why we always say, if you can afford the monthly, jump in now. And then you can make those sacrifices like we talked about, refinance later when you can. And then naturally, God willing, if you wait a little bit, you typically end up getting a promotion once every year or every 2 years. Your income will naturally increase. At the bare minimum, your employer should be doing inflation, right? But if you're doing a really good job, you're going to see more. So I believe that money will come. And, worst case scenario, I think a fallback plan is if you end up losing a job, or you can still turn your home into a rental maybe, and find a backup for yourself.
Those are all great points. And I think let's do a little math, like just a real live situation, right? Say that, like, you have a mortgage payment that's $4,000 a month, right, in a house that you just bought. That's, let's say, like in our market, that might be like $550,000 purchase price right now, right?
Right.
So So you're at $4,000 a month, which equates to, over the long run in the year, you're paying about $48,000 a year in your housing cost, right? $48,000. But say that place appreciates at 7%, right? Which is what it did last year. And so if that appreciates at 7%, especially the lower end single family, that's we've seen the most appreciation out of that category in our market.
They're booming right now too.
Yeah. So if that's the case, that's about 40,000 right there. And then you look at the tax savings, right? With interest that you can write off, that may be another 6,000 to 8,000 a year that you save. Then you look at the principal that you paid yourself back that year. That may be 4,000 to 5,000 in your payment that you paid yourself over the course of that year. So now we're getting up to around 50, right? As far as that goes. And our cost for the home was 48,000, right? So when you look at it that way, you just live there for free.
Right.
Or you just made $2,000 because it cost you 48,000.
Pull out from the appreciation.
Yep.
As much. Kind of save for later.
Yeah, and that's not perfect because we're not counting utilities and just stuff like that. So maybe you broke even, or maybe you paid a little bit to live there. Beats the heck out of a $4,000 a month rent payment. Right?
And it's a different way to look at it, because I think what people do is they only look at the $4,000 a month and they don't see all the other points you just made.
Yep.
So it's important to remind people of them.
Totally. Yeah. Because if you factor all that into your budget, right, some of that's going to come maybe in form of a tax refund, right? So you have to budget that out and plan for it and be disciplined and use that and allocate that towards, your other expenses. And then some of it may be in the form of your equity, which you can tap into, right, with a home equity line of credit. Or, when you go to sell, you get that money back, obviously. So it's not immediate, so you don't feel it in your bank account. And that's the challenge that some people face. But over the long run, there's no question in my mind, buying is definitely better than renting. But we've talked a lot about why buying is better than renting. Other advantages to renting that you can think of. Amenities? Okay. Maybe a community that.
Yeah, people that, want the pool and the gym and everything, they don't have to pay extra for that or leave their, drive to go to a gym or.
Yeah, maybe locations sometimes if you're priced out of living right in, Denver proper. If you can't afford Denver pricing, then you might have to drive a little more south or outside the city.
Right.
So that could be one.
Maintenance costs.
Yep.
So it's like here, I mean,
Something
if you
broke.
own, maybe you have to take care of a yard or pay someone to take care of a yard. Well, with renting, you don't have to worry about just
make a phone call. My dishwasher broke.
Yep. Or if there's something broken, it's easy. It's easy to get that done, and it usually happens within 24 hours.
Yeah.
I know when I used to rent, it was my first real apartment. This is probably dramatic, but I loved being in an apartment because I was scared. It was my first time living by myself, and if somebody was going to hurt me or break in, my neighbor would hear me.
Yeah.
Screaming for my life.
I actually agree with that.
It's so silly.
Living in an apartment building. I actually had that fear too. But to your point, with things breaking down, I think, again, home buyers don't need to go at it alone. This is where you lean on your agent and the relationship that you have there for resources. Our jobs aren't just to be there to help you close, but it's also to support you once you've gotten into the home and make sure, checking in on you, making sure you still like it, if everything's working right. We have great plumber connections, electricians, home renovation contractors that can help with home renovations. Everything, roofers, plumbing repair, anything you can think of. So that's really where you just make a quick phone call to your agent, say, hey, I got a problem, can you help me solve it? And it just takes 10 seconds.
And how much do we charge them for those connections?
It's free.
For free.
To put them in contact with someone that's reliable. So that's where you don't really have to go at it. And our people are really good where they prioritize the people we send them because of that relationship there and that partnership. So they do it pretty quick. Can't guarantee 24 hours every time because, that's life. That's how it goes. But they will get you in quick. Oh, yeah. Renting. Renting sometimes can be tough.
They can forget about it.
Yeah.
Tell you in a month, hey, did somebody ever come out?
Depending if you have a good landlord or property manager, it can be a lot longer.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
For sure. And I think like for me, the biggest positive to renting and the reason to rent is if you are only going to be there for a year.
That was my
and you're
other
not
one, yeah.
committing to the area, right?
Yeah.
Because
I know a lot of people that are like that because they transfer, their job transfers them every 1 to 2 years in military or
Yep.
whatever like that. And so they get really bummed out because they found a city like Denver that they just want to sit still for a minute and purchase.
Yep.
And maybe
Absolutely.
one other positive of renting would be if you're new to an area, just renting for a short period of time. So you can get here, especially if you're from out of state, and then explore the city, the different areas a little bit more to help navigate the home buying and where you want to end up.
Yep. And I would say if you're going to be, like in our experience, we haven't had any problem helping people sell that have been in their home for at least 2 years, right?
Yeah.
3 years is probably the like even safer spot. But if you're planning on being in an area for at least that long, then it makes all the sense in the world to buy. Obviously, there's some very anomaly situations, right? Like 2007 was one of them where we were heading into a recession that nobody knew how long that was going to last. So people that bought in 2007 and tried to sell in 2009 were in a tough spot. They were underwater. So there are some of those situations, right? And some people still have like PTSD from that, and I have family actually that like had gone through a short sale in that time frame and they still haven't bought since because they've had that fear of like something else happening, that devastating event happening again or the market tanking, something like that. And so I think it's really good to put things into perspective, right? And understand that like that recession, the Great Recession is what we call it, was the the biggest one we've had, right? Other than the Great Depression, that was the biggest downturn in home values that we've seen in our country. And so it was a big ordeal with the amount of subprime loans that were out there, and the overall like volume of it was just humongous. And something to understand is like right now we've had a surge in inventory. Inventory is up 45% in the last year, and we're still at 8,000 units right now, right? Economists say 12,000 units is balanced in our market. Back then we had 24,000 total units. And so we had double what was normal, and that was a saturated market where, homeowners just had a really hard time selling unless their house was in a phenomenal location and looked perfect on the inside. And so that's the perspective that you have to have and understand, because there's a lot of people that tell us, right, on the phone or in person, like, no, I'm afraid to buy because I don't want this market to crash and then I'm stuck, in a value that I can't sell. And I would say 97% of the time, if you buy and stay somewhere for 3 years, you're going to make money on your home in Colorado. Okay, there are other markets where that may not be true. Very stagnant markets, especially like I talked to an agent from Peoria, Illinois, one time that was like, yeah, in 2021, what the highest appreciating year in history for us. We appreciated like 18% that year. And I asked her, I said, how much did you guys appreciate in Peoria? She said 0. And I'm like, in 2021, 0?
Wow.
I'm like, are you sure we're talking about the same thing? Like values going, like, no, flat, right? There's just not a lot of jobs in their market. There's not a lot of growth.
Okay.
It's not a growth market. It's a cash flow market. And she was telling me she had like 30 doors that she had bought, right? Like different assets and investment properties.
Wow.
And she does it for cash flow because there's no growth in their market. So there are some places that are just stagnant. We're fortunate in Colorado to live in a place that is very growth market oriented.
Oh, yeah.
And so we anticipate and expect growth almost every year in our market at about a 7% average.
And that makes sense closer to Denver as opposed to way out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. So, and that demand doesn't seem to be slowing down. I mean, just the amount of people that want to own real estate here is mind-blowing. And the population size of the Gen Zs and the millennials is just as big as the baby boomers, and that's not running out either from anything we can tell. So economists just continue to predict steady growth in our market, and I think that's going to be true. So
Yeah, and if you're a growing family, which is always going to be something,
Yep.
you're not going to, or if you love animals, I know a lot of animal lovers, and you can't really do that in an apartment
Yep.
or in a rental,
Right.
so those are all
True.
good reasons I think to buy.
purchase.
And
Yeah.
if you want to make it your own too.
Yeah,
I was just about to say, the customization, because I mean, when you rent a place, it is how it looks, and that's the
it
way
is, and
it
you
is,
and I feel like when you own something, you take a lot more pride in it and you take care of it versus, I mean, I've heard the horror stories of renters, you know, in people's homes that they've just destroyed it because they don't care. It's not theirs.
Yeah.
They get to just walk away at the end of the lease, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And there was a recent survey done by the National Association of Realtors where they surveyed Gen Zs, because everyone's saying like Gen Zs are going to be different. They're not going to buy houses. And the survey showed that 84% of Gen Zs wanted to buy a home. That was a desire that they had, a goal that they had. And so, I mean, that desire is not going away because of things like that, right? To be able to do what you want with it, to be able to have the American dream, right, per se, or the income over time. And I think a lot of people understand that home ownership can make you money over time. I do also think that part of why, like the longer you stay as a renter, the harder it is to become a homeowner, because you've seen a lot of value like go by you, and you've never like been on that wave, riding that wave of appreciation. And so I think it's really easy to stay there if you've been there for a while. And I feel like it can be generational too.
It just gets comfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, a home purchase is arguably the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life for most people.
Yep.
And it doesn't happen overnight when, you know, you go get a home to rent or an apartment to rent, 48 hours, you know, you can just move in, you're done.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of planning and learning, you know, from an agent on the process. I mean, it's not an overnight process, and there's lots of moving pieces.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
Totally.
You know, if you take the steps
Yep.
to understand it.
We
So,
just closed someone this morning who, you know, has had a house for a while and getting close to retirement, and you know, sold their house for $700,000 that went into their bank account.
Yep.
Owned it scot-free. So
oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and
Paid it off.
Just
Yeah.
paid off.
So worth
just living there. You know, so
Yeah, that's
It's-
the other beauty of this, right? We haven't talked about that mortgages get paid off eventually, right? So then you can live there and just pay the taxes on it,
Yeah.
which is
That's
awesome. So
Yeah.
that's huge. That never happens on a rental. It's just continuous
Yeah.
money to the landlord.
exactly.
Yep. Very cool.
She was very happy when she signed that last piece of
I
paper.
bet.
Saw the amount.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that like what I've learned is there's people's parents give them advice, right? And some advice is great, some advice is not so great. Okay, and I think that the thing is you have to like really look to experts in different fields, right? I don't know a whole lot about the stock market, so I go to someone that can advise me about that. Your parents may or may not have a lot of experience in this, right? If your parents have been renting their whole life, they may not have a lot of experience. They may have a perspective that's tilted in that direction. So I think, again, it's important to hear your family out, have great relationships with your family, but also seek advice from experts.
Yes.
So that you can make a
Agreed.
great decision that's going to bless your life for decades, right? Like that homeowner
Yeah.
that sold today.
And I made a video about this actually too. Is, you know, your parents may have had experience buying a house and they've maybe done it twice,
Yep.
maybe 3 times. Who knows? Depends on that. You know what their situation is, but. How long ago
know.
was that?
Very different now.
Very different now.
Yeah.
So I think talking to someone like an expert, like Landon mentioned, who has done 3 this week, and is a little bit more in tune with the process, what it takes now, because your parents' experience 20 years ago was 20 years ago. That's a thing of the past.
Yep.
You can lean on them for certain advice, and I think it's important to run things by your family, but I think, you have to make your own decision with the experts.
No question.
Yeah, and also talking to a realtor is free. So, you know, you can find one or a couple if you want to ask questions. You know, if your family's only giving you one side of the story,
Right.
of saying, hey, we've rented forever, renting is the way to go, and they aren't able to kind of explain the other side of it,
Yep.
it is good to talk to a realtor. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're committing to anything. It's just good to ask questions that you have.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
And I do this with just about everything, whether it's taxes or financial, planning advice.
Totally.
Talking to 3 different people from different companies, and if I keep getting the same answer, or things are staying consistent, then I know what choice, what decision I have to make.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Great points. Yeah. Anything else to close it out,
No.
you guys? Okay.
Call us.
Awesome. Yeah, give us a call if we can help in any way as far as just walking you through and showing you real data as far as like what homes have done over the last 30 years, you know, if that's helpful for you, or just understanding the interest rate pattern over the last 50 years. That may be helpful perspective. We're here for you. We can help you out, and we're never too busy. So give us a call. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. So if you have enjoyed what you're listening to and you'd like to hear more, make sure to press that subscribe button so that you can not miss out on any more episodes that are coming up. And also check out all of our contact information is below. You can see us at the dreamsmithteam.com to look up more information about our team and our history and all of the members of our team, and see contact information that you can reach us if you have any real estate needs.
See you next time.